What's up, everyone? Well, guess who spoiled Indy 11's amazing streak? It was Orange County. On the road in Indy, they get the shutout, they get the win, coming home with 3 points in that match. I think we're feeling good about that. There's a lot of craziness that we have to talk about. There's some rumors spreading around the webs over the last few days. We're going to talk about the match. We're going to talk about the rumors. We're going to talk about the upcoming match against Oakland. Let's get into this. Welcome to the Podcast of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora, and I'm here to take you through this journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Helping me out for this episode, we've got Dylan. Dylan, how we doing?
We're not bad. A surprising 3 points at the weekend. So ride that high for as long as we can.
I was going to say, not too many people probably were anticipating 3 points from this past weekend. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to last week's episode, so I don't know what y'all predicted. But I would almost
record
assume,
is having said that we were going to lose, as was Brad, as was everybody.
I could picture that. I could picture that from. I would assume 99% of the fan base were not really high on this match as a possible upset. Let's check out the other help for tonight. DK, were you glass half full or glass half empty on this past weekend's match before the results were found out?
I would definitely say I was glass half empty. I was in that camp of thinking we weren't going to get away with too many points, especially with Indy's hot streak. But I'm very happy that we did. It's great to kill another club's streak. Love to see it. However, there's some things I think we got to be worried about for this coming week that may keep me as a glass half empty kind of viewpoint. But we'll get into that.
Oh, we got to get into the positivity here. We have figured these things out, right? This past weekend, Orange County travels out to Indianapolis to face Indy 11. They come away with a 1-0 victory thanks to not only a nice, powerful header by Ethan Zubak on a great cross, a great swing in from Owen Lamb. Let's not take away the value of that great cross, but also some good defense and goalkeeping work from, Colin Shutler and the defensive line really helped out. There was some scares throughout this match. Obviously, I think, what was it? The last 7 or 8 minutes of the first half when the player for Indy went down and they were playing a man short. I think we were all thinking back to those, oh, we're up a man, we're going to concede a goal now type things. And it almost looked like it could have happened. But Orange County actually scared Indy towards the end of that as well. And then in the second half, also in the waning minutes, I think there was a few scares from Indy in this match. Dylan, your thoughts overall on this Orange County victory shutout, 3 points against Indy 11?
Yeah, I really thought everything was going against us here. Traveling, playing on this god-awful turf, playing in nasty weather, being on the road in general, team against the East, having no real fit players, everything. And we talked about this last week. Everything was going against Orange County in this match. So it was kind of unbelievable to think that there was going to be a result, let alone Orange County opening the scoring, because apparently Indy also just couldn't figure out, in a very Orange County-esque performance, they were like, we don't know how to score. We don't know what we're doing with the ball in the box. But massive. And I think I talked about earlier this season, sometimes you just play poorly, but a good team will create its own luck. And this was one of those. And that's not to discount some of the really impressive goalkeeping that was happening in this match, and really a dogged defensive performance, I think. But yeah, sometimes it's luck to come away with a win in these ones.
Yeah, I mean, the goalpost was definitely having the match of its life against Orange County for Indy 11. There was, 3 or 4 ricochets off the goalpost that a centimeter in one direction knocks in and gives a goal. And I want to say this really quick before I go to you, DK. I want to admit, I think, and maybe I'm wrong. Y'all can correct me if I'm not wrong. I think Indy was screwed on an offside call in the second half. I don't think it was an offside call when they put the ball in the back of the net. Luckily for Orange County, it was a bad call. But hey, we all know that happens in this league, right? There's bad calls that are going to affect both teams. And in this case, it really impacted Indy 11. And to be honest, it should have probably been a 1-1 result on this. But hey, I will take the 3 points. DK, your thoughts on this match? And am I wrong, or was I correct from what we recognize? Or I don't know, DK. I don't remember if you were able to actually catch the full match. So I don't know if they showed that in the highlights or not.
Oh, yeah. No, I was able to catch the full match. I was actually at the 1886 brewery down in Orange with the CLC. Had a pretty good turnout for that. So that was fun. So I was able to watch the match and then go look at the highlights. Honestly, to me personally, I thought it was offsides. Indy's goal. I think our goal was also offsides. I think both those calls were valid. But again, I'm not a referee, so what do I know? Either way, I'm glad that their goal did get disallowed for the offsides. It was funny just how identical both of those looked. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the win. I don't think this is the prettiest, most exciting game that Orange County has ever played, but that's okay. Sometimes you just got to sit back and you got to park the bus, especially with the injuries that we faced. And luckily, our midfield and our defense were able to hold strong against Indy and keep it back. I think Ryan Flood looked a lot better in the center back position this week than he did against Colorado. So that was nice to see. Hopefully we get some of our center backs soon so that he can get on the wing or have Dogman back on the wing so that we can really play to our strengths. But I think, obviously the big highlights are going to be Shutler, had a great game. Get back to shutout Shutler, which is awesome to see. And then Ethan Zubak, he looked a lot better than I've seen him. I mean, I think we saw the best shot opportunity chance that he's ever had. I know it went off the woodwork, but man, it beat the keeper. It looked really good. And if it was just an inch inside, that would have been 2-0. So I was really excited to see that. I think he made up for his header in Phoenix with getting the goal this week. So I was happy to see. Team seemed to really put a lot of energy into it, despite being on turf, despite this crazy heat, as Dylan mentioned. So as much as it wasn't the most exciting match to watch, I'm excited with how it turned out. I think the only thing that really worries me is the fact that 2 of our players got taken off early. Seth Kasipley, Brian Olowski getting injured on this turf really, really sucks. And it just makes me a little worried that although we got the 3 points this week, are we going to come back home even weaker than we were when we left?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point to bring up because it was a little scary. And the announcers were even commenting that both players were having to be helped off the field. I believe they mentioned the cart for Seth Kasipley and that the cart was called out for Olowski, but Olowski was able to, I guess, be helped off the pitch without the cart. So that's always a scary sight. And I know Dylan mentioned it. Sometimes these pitches are not the greatest pitches in the league, and it can cause some issues as well. So I don't know if that played a part in either of these 2 injuries, but that is definitely a concern for Orange County fans. Although, yes, we're excited about the 3 points, but the concern for the injuries. We're already banged up. We already have a lot of injuries going on. This team can't afford to lose 2 of their higher end players if this is the case. And to talk about the heat aspect of things, I mean, how many times did we see the camera zoom in on Ethan Zubak and he's like asking to come out or wanting to come out? And just the thing that sucks about it is, again, those injuries are hurting the team. They don't have the subs to really be able to do that kind of stuff if a player is asking or needs to come out. So props to the Orange County boys for fighting through it, fighting through the heat, fighting through some physical play, and getting a result here, a full 3 points on the road and stopping what was probably the hottest team in the league going into the weekend in Indy 11. I know the announcers on the match for the Galazzo stream. I don't know if there was a different stream from the if KCAL had a different set of announcers like they had in the past. But they were talking about the injuries for Indy, but I'm sorry, you can talk about injuries all you want. Injuries, Orange County is dealing with injuries, so I'm not going to feel bad for you if your team is dealing with injuries. Dylan, any last thoughts on this match before we move on and look ahead to what's next for Orange County?
No, but this just, I have this ideal dream where there's no baseball stadiums and there's no turf fields in the USL.
Dream.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream, but this perfect world where even a somewhat decent grass pitch, and let's be honest, the Champ's been awful in years past. But at least it's grass, and at least it's not a baseball stadium. Whatever. And maybe that's not what caused the injury, but still, just from a player long-term welfare situation, like just, it's not great.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why FIFA is really high on for the World Cup in 2028 that stadiums have grass fields, or is it 2026? I forget what year the World Cup is.
26.
I'm wrong. 2026 grass fields, and I think we've seen some examples in the recent Copa America games where the grass field in some of these stadiums isn't that great. I think Argentina was complaining about the field conditions in the Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever in Atlanta. Hopefully there will be a better fix for that. And I'd love to see, like you said, Dylan, I dream of a day where we have natural grass in all stadiums and they're all well taken care of and maintained. Hey, they could do it in England.
No, I didn't even ask that much. I just want grass.
They do it in England where they get snow like crazy, and the grass is still somehow green on match day under piles of snow and whatnot. So it could definitely be done here. You just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna harp on this, and we're gonna start talking about undersoil heating. So, hey, we played Oakland this weekend, and last time we played Oakland, things went very poorly. But to maybe recap and let us know what's been going on in the 510 since that time, we got Mr. Peter Bloom back on the show. So, Peter, welcome back to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great to have you.
We're riding high.
Hey, we're coming off a victory over Indy. I mean, that's a big thing. It's representing the West. We're making the West look good by taking down one of the strong teams in the East, right? Peter,
Oakland started their season with a win over Indy, and we thought Indy were going to be good, and that was really encouraging. And then Indy got terrible, and then the Roots got terrible. But then Indy got good again, and you've beaten them. So, maybe they're good.
But Oakland also got good again. So
Oakland also got good again, yeah.
How are things going for the Roots?
Much better. The Roots, when I came on last, I did not have positive predictions for the path of this team. And what was that? That was right after the New Mexico loss. Yeah, so we had fired Noah Delgado, I guess, at that point, and he had drawn San Antonio, lost to New Mexico, and I think lost out of the U.S. Open Cup, which is not an auspicious start to that run, especially because now we know San Antonio aren't any good. But since then, they have 5 wins and 2 losses. So 5 wins counting over Orange County the last time. And things are looking a lot better. I mean, some of those are quality wins. 1-0 over Tampa Bay in Oakland, 3-2 in Sacramento, first time the Roots have ever won in Sacramento, and a 2-1 win over El Paso, who are starting to look a little bit better than they started the season. Lost this past weekend in Monterey. A great team wouldn't lose in Monterey, but there was some really terrible luck in that game. I don't want to put it all on luck, but I'm not losing sleep over that Monterey result. So that's kind of how things are going. I mean, Glitton's changed things up. He's rotated a ton. He uses his subs somewhat more aggressively than Noah did, and he's no longer running 3 center backs, which I think is really is a thing people complained a lot about with Delgado, and it was easy to be like, well, we all want to see this. Who knows if it's actually going to work? And it turns out it works. It's way better. So things are looking up compared to early in the season.
The interesting thing when you look at the standings out west, Oakland is currently sitting third, but they're only 2 points ahead of Orange County, the standing. Orange County is sitting eighth. That's how crazy the Western Conference is. And Orange County does have 2 matches in hand over Oakland on those standings. So Orange County fans, don't feel horrible at this point that we're sitting in eighth place. But really, you look at this, right? There's a chance after this weekend, Oakland drops pretty far down the table and Orange County pops all the way up the table. How does that feel you can't be as confident going into a match. We're third place. We should beat this team easily, right? It's definitely a very interesting matchup. And again, Orange County, you don't know what to get out of them. They've been dealing with injuries. They're makeshift lineups. There's all this crazy stuff going on. What scares you as a Oakland fan having to face this Orange County team the way they are sort of designed right now?
Yeah, I think it's that unpredictability. We know that Orange County has some great players, and if the lineup that they can throw together on a given Saturday clicks, it's going to be a tough game. And I think that's probably what's keeping Clinton up at night, is just a complete uncertainty about what he's going to face.
And I apologize, I haven't really paid much attention to Oakland, but is Oakland dealing with anything similar to with Orange County? I mean, we've seen in recent matches, what was it? A recent match, it was an injury report of 9 players that were out due to injury. And we're not just talking about, bottom end of the bench players. We're talking about key players, starters, key players off the bench. Has Oakland had to face any of that adversity this season with mass injuries like that?
Nothing on that scale. The Roots have had injuries, and I think injuries that vindicate them and complaining about them. But it's more losing the best players versus losing everyone. So they were trying to settle in Camden Riley early. He was one of their big offseason signings. Looked good out of the gate, and then he got sick and missed like 3 or 4 games. That was frustrating. And they've looked better since he was back. Their big signing, Dom Dwyer, came in and is apparently not fit, not ready to go. So he's played 60 total minutes since being signed 9 games ago or something like that. I think that to the extent that the Roots lineup has a lot of overturning in it, it's more that Clinton is trying to figure out which players he trusts. And he's never, he's like, they had a midweek game against El Paso and 9 starters switched because he's happy to run the youth players. I think he doesn't know exactly who his best 11 is anyway. And so there's a lot of turnover there, but it's not kind of forced for the most part.
Peter, you mentioned the switch away from 3 at the back, or 5 at the back, depending on how you look at it. It looks like the majority of the time it's a 4-2-3-1, but occasionally a 4-1-4-1. When it comes to that, and I know it was Luda Bafeka in that 10 for a couple weeks, are they playing as a second striker and they're just playing a little bit back? Are they actually an attacking midfielder? Like, tactically, what does that look like for the Roots?
Yeah, so I think that I would characterize it as a 4-2-3-1, but it's imbalanced. So you have a defensive midfielder and then another midfielder who may be box to box, but in reality, they primarily play 2 defensive midfielders. And one of them is Camden Riley, and one of them is sort of someone else. Frequently Danny Gomez, frequently it's been Napo Metsoso occasionally. Sometimes it's Iracoze Donaciano. And then you have a line of forwards behind them. So the 3, and Mafeka and Cedeno interchange regularly the whole game. So it doesn't really make sense to think of one as a right winger and one as a number 10, because they'll swap. I mean, both of them are like trained as number 10s, and which one is on the outside and which one is on the center is like changes minute to minute in the game. And then the imbalance is that on the left you have Trayvon Reed, who is an out-and-out winger. He's trying to get the ball at midfield, beat you to the goal line, and put in a cross. And that's what he does essentially every time he touches the ball. And then you have Johnny Rodriguez typically playing up top, sometimes Mishnaider Shari as a pure striker, pure number 9. So yeah, it's like there's not 1 10, there's 2 10s. And the right wing is really kind of, it's like underdeveloped in a winger sense. The right side tends to be like really technical play, especially interchanging with Memo Diaz or Brian Tamakis, our sort of most technical right backs are on that side as well.
My brain is firing away. All three brain cells are going, oh my God, Cameron Dunbar on the left, just torching, go crazy, put Ryan Flood out there. Like, great, wonderful. How tactically have Oakland been against transition teams? Because, not to spoil it for Orange County, we don't have enough players to play a nice version of the game right now. So it's rolling back the years. I don't even want to say 4-4-2, hoof the ball up the field. There is one man up top and hopefully someone running into a layoff. So is that easy? Is it you mentioned defensive midfielders. Is it a back four at all times with that kind of two center backs, two defensive midfielders thing? Are they fast?
Well, I think that those are two really insightful questions to pair there, which is that, I mean, if you watch the highlights from the Monterey Bay game this past weekend, the Roots lost that game on the transition, basically. And the very first goal, I think it was the first goal, the right back, Tamakis, was in the 18-yard box. And so the two center backs and the left back they were the back line and they had pushed forward, and Diaz got caught out as the left back, and a ball over the top just beats everyone. And I think I don't think it's necessarily a weakness, but it is definitely a thing to attack. I mean, it's going to look like a weakness because it is where the goals come from, I think. The one like sort of question mark there is that they got so punished for it by Monterey Bay that you have to imagine that's what they've spent the week thinking about. Speed is not a strength from their center backs. It's better than it was when it was Emmer Clemente and Tarek Murad last season, who were ponderous. But one of the Roots' best players this season, one of their best offseason signings, this guy Gagi Markvalashvili, is not fast. He's like 6'8" and he runs like he's 6'8". And Naveal Hackshaw isn't running anyone. He's not winning any foot races. But frequently they're smart enough that they don't get beat. They don't let themselves get beat.
I think my last one for you is, how does Oakland lose this match? What goes wrong to allow Orange County to take all 3 points?
I mean, I think exactly that. I think that if they give up goals, it's likely to be that. They've had some bad luck as well. I mean, maybe it's not bad luck. They've gotten punished by failing to clear the ball at times. Like a corner kick comes in, they win the ball, but they don't clear it, and it falls to a player for an easy goal. So that's, I think, how Orange County is likely to score. One of those two things. I think that the issue, the reason why the Roots may not win, why they won't score, is, Johnny Rodriguez, he scored one of the goals of the season last week, and he still probably missed 3 goals he should have scored. And that finishing is just there. It's just biting them right now. And that was the big problem against Monterey Bay. They have had games where they've struggled to get the ball into the box. They'll get the ball into the 18-yard box, and then they don't really like their look, and they play it out, and they cycle the ball in the midfield, and then they turn it over. And it's sort of the old criticism of the Arsenal teams from 2015 that's horseshoe, where they never their look enough, so they just never go in for the goal. So I could see that being. I would bet on Oakland to have the possession at Orange County, to try to take the game to Orange County. And I think that means they're going to give up opportunities on the break. And I think that they may struggle to put the ball in. They aren't struggling with that the way they were in the first half of the season. So, I wouldn't count on that.
So, Peter, no denying the great results that you guys have had recently, which also kind of coincides with a managerial change for you guys' club. We at Orange County Soccer Club are no strangers to that. So what about Clinton has really like surprised you or impressed you? Is it tactically? Is it the relationship with the players in the locker room? And what about him has you a little bit worried?
So, I mean, I think the glaring reason why you would be worried is that he's brand new. This is not only his first managing job, like I think it was his first time as like a first assistant coach when he got promoted into it. So he doesn't even have that much experience on the sideline, at least at this level. I think that one thing that has made him valuable is I think he has some history with our technical director, Jordan Farrell. And I think that it is likely that he ended up at the Roots because he sees players the same way that our technical director does, and that can't hurt. What has me excited about why I think he's getting results is, I mean, he's got the players bought in. They're running really hard. He's rotating the squad so that there's buy-in from the bench, and their pressing is creating turnovers and creating opportunities. So I think that there is, I think all of those factors have led to getting more than the sum of the parts out of the team, where I think Delgado's Delgado was getting less than the sum of the parts out of the team. And so just that transition has been enough to make the team much scarier to our opponents and, shot us up the table to third and, 1 point out of ninth or whatever.
Thank you so much for that, Peter. I hate to rush off, but we have our next guest waiting in the green room, but I do want to get a prediction from you for this match. What do you think the score outcome will be in this match between Orange County and Oakland?
2-0 Roots.
2-0 Roots. Wow. And I know you're putting some material for our next guest to put on the bulletin board and be like, look at this. The Roots fans think we cannot score and that we're going to give up goals. But we'll see how that goes, Peter. Really quick, before we let you go, where can our listeners find out more from you?
Yeah, so you can check out our website, which is oaklandrootsblog.com. And on Twitter, we're at oakrootsblog. And that's probably the best place to find us. I mean, you can find me on Twitter. I'm not going to give my handle. You can find me, but it's not going to do anyone any favors to find me.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Peter Bloom from Roots Blog, friend of the show. Thank you for joining us as always. And we'll talk to you again very soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Peter.
Let's move on to our next guest for this show. And he was in the green room paying attention, hearing what the Roots fans were talking about there. That's the goalkeeper for your Orange County Soccer Club, Mr. Colin Shutler. Colin, the Roots Blog, Peter Bloom saying 2-0 Oakland. Does that give you a little extra motivation for this upcoming match this weekend?
I don't think we need more motivation from the last game, but I definitely don't like hearing 2 goals getting past me. So yeah, we'll be more than motivated to go into this week to try to get revenge from what happened last game.
And we all know you're capable of those shutouts. You earned a nickname of Shutout Shutler, I believe it was last season, from a lot of the fans. And you just showed this past weekend that you still know how to do those shutouts. And we all know it takes some good saves, some good defense in front of you, and a little bit of luck. That all plays into part of the shutouts. What was the scariest shot this past weekend that you were most worried about getting past you?
Gosh, put me on the spot here. I'd probably say the deflection down to my right side. Any time that a shot goes through and I see the first direction of it and it gets redirected in a different direction, it always gives me trouble. But I was lucky enough to have. I mean, Floody took the sting off of it, thankfully, so I was able to get over there, and the rest of the guys in front of me did as much as they could and gave a reasonable job for me to do to keep a clean sheet this week. So it was a good one for us.
As a goalkeeper, because I mean, obviously, I believe like last season there was a little bit more stability in front of you. There was you knew the 4 players that were going to be in front of you on defense week in and week out. This year's been a lot different from that. It's a mix up, mesh up of players playing out of position, players just now joining the team, injuries, this and that. How does that impact a goalkeeper not having that consistency in front of you? Does it impact you much, or is it not as big of a deal as some of us like to make it out to be?
I'd say it definitely plays a role. I like knowing the different like rhythms that we get in as a back four, like I had with Dylan and Marcus as my center backs last year, and we obviously haven't had the same type of consistency this year, which is a little bit unfortunate, especially for those guys that are off the field. I feel terrible for them. They really want to be back out there, but I mean, every week in training, I do what I can to get on the same page with whoever's going to be back there with me that week, and we just get as prepared as we can for the week coming up.
Awesome. And I'm going to read off one of the fan questions because it's up on this, they've posted them already. And fans, if you're listening, throw some questions on here. The question comes from Chuck, who's just asking how the heat, because we heard it was pretty warm out there in Indianapolis this past week. And I'm assuming, depending on how the weather is down here in Southern California, it could be hot this weekend. How does the heat affect you as a goalkeeper? And then also just what you see from the opposing players. How does it impact their play? From what you've noticed?
Yeah, I think one of the most notable games was last year at Miami, the 0-0 draw. And I remember, I think it was like even before halftime, you could tell that just it seemed like no one wanted to make the extra run because everybody was just dead from the hot and humid weather. And I mean, it didn't seem like that on this past weekend, but it felt very similar with the heat and the humidity. And we felt it when we were training out there on Friday during the day when the sun was out as well. But I mean, for me, I think I just have to find my energy wherever I can. And the same with my teammates. I mean, we know going in what the weather's going to be like, and we drink a little bit of extra fluids and whatnot so that we can make sure that we get through those 90 minutes.
Who do you think has more of an advantage in that heat? Is it the goalkeeper or is it the players out on the pitch running?
Probably me. They might get a little bit more tired a little quicker just because they have to move around and moving through that air. But I don't know. I mean, we're all going through the same conditions, so it's every man for themselves.
I admire that you're willing to just kind of string your teammates out there. When you are recovering from a match like this, kind of regardless of where it is, what are you doing, and versus what is everybody else doing for recovery?
Depends. I mean, on a game like this, especially with long travel right after. I mean, I think we had to get up at 4:30 a.m. Western time to get back to us, but I'll wear my recovery pants and I'll bring an empty plastic water bottle to the airport so that I can fill it up, because I know that, I mean, water at airport is expensive. So I'll make sure that I keep refilling those before every flight and asking for water from the flight attendants when they come around. So I definitely take advantage of that. I know a lot of the guys are doing the same, and I know that most of us, I'm sure there's countless of pictures of myself and teammates just slumped with our mouths open on the flights on the way home just because we're exhausted from the travel, the game the night before, the short night afterwards, getting up early. So it's just regenerating the fluids in our bodies and getting as much rest as we can.
I hope that some of those pictures one day become public.
I hope they don't.
Shocking how we have different opinions on that. Colin, you're into year 3 somehow as a member of Orange County. You're behind Patrick Kukovsky and Cody Cropper, who, and I mean no disrespect to you at this point because you've played quite a fair share of matches, but more experienced goalkeepers. What have you taken from the last 2 years to put into this year for you, and how are you able to take what you've learned and pass it on to Duran?
Yeah, I think it's just conversations that I've had day to day, every day in practice with Patrick and then with Cody. I mean, and not saying that I didn't give my fair share of, trying to give my fair share of advice to them as well. I don't know if they took it as the same way that I did, but I think I love playing with different goalkeepers, whether that be me playing games or them. I know it's always tough being off the field, but I love hearing the different experiences that they have and the different, what's it called? Just like perspectives that they have for different situations that you might face in a game. And the more experiences and perspectives that you hear, the more that you're able to kind of think about your play and change it a little bit from year to year. And I think that getting the experiences with Pat and Cody under my belt, I'm able to learn more from them. And now I can pass it off to Duran, and he can pass off different experiences that he had while at San Diego with Koke and other goalkeepers that he's been with.
And yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what Dylan was mentioning, in the Phoenix match, when Duran was on the pitch, there was definitely a point when there was like a water break, or maybe it was at halftime, when we saw you guys on the, feed really kind of discussing his play. So how have you kind of taken that mentor role or whatever in regards to passing that information in Duran? And at the same time, have you learned anything from a young goalkeeper coming into, his professional career?
Oh yeah. I've learned how to be a youth again. I'm getting old now.
There you go.
No, I think I said this last time I was on here though. I have one older brother, so I've always been the youngest in the family, and I've always been the youngest in my grade as well. So I've always been waiting for that time to be an older brother figure to a player or someone. And I've always been closer to Bryce and Correa, the young guys on the team, just because I love being that older mentor. And of course, I don't have the experiences that I can share with Correa and Bryce that I can with Duran. But yeah, I mean, I love working with Duran. I look forward to practicing with him every day, just working together and going out each weekend and trying to get a shutout.
Awesome. No, that's so cool to hear. And, kind of speaking on the weather question that you had to face in Indy as well, how does it feel and how do you prepare yourself when you go onto a different stadium that has turf rather than real grass? Is there anything that you prepare yourself for? Does it affect your play at all, having to kind of dive on turf to stop these shots? Or
yeah, I'll change my warm up just slightly, just to get more bounce shots into my into me. I think, I mean, and it shows that there's always a different bounce in even different turf fields, but definitely different from grass to turf. So I always make sure that I can kind of read the bounce that the turf will get, whether it's going to stop short or skip a little bit more if it's a little bit wetter on the ground. But yeah, I definitely would piggyback on what Dylan was saying earlier in the episode about I wish that there were a lot more grass fields and less baseball fields as well. And that turf was hot after a long day of the sun just beaming on it all day.
Can I say, I will say this, and I know that the guys hate when I mention my youth soccer coaching, but when I have to stand as a coach on those fake grass fields on a 9,500 degree day, I come home exhausted, burnt, whatever. So did I mess up my words, Dylan? You're making some funny faces over there.
On a 9,500 degree day?
95
Where do
to
you
100.
live?
We have those in Southern California, Dylan, trust me. But back to questions for Colin here. I don't know if you're aware. I know we've talked to other players and they sort of are aware of what we do in the month of June. We do a Playing for Pride fantasy soccer game with all of our listeners, raising money, funds to go towards Athlete Ally. And can I just say, Colin, your performance this past weekend with a shutout and a bunch of saves, you just threw this whole score sheet out of whack. This is our score sheet right now. Going into the match against Indy, I was on the left side towards the upper 5 or 6 spots. And now as you can look, I'm on the right side of the sheet, all because I didn't pick Colin Shutler as one of my players on my roster. I did it because I didn't want to spend the $4 for Colin Shutler. Instead, I spent it elsewhere because we only get so much money to spend, Colin. But can I just say, you have one more week like that. You're 100% taking anyone that didn't pick Colin Shutler on their roster, and you're eliminating them from any chance. I think I'm already eliminated, but what do you think? What do you think? What do you have to say for those people that did not pick you, such as myself, what's the message to us to maybe remember next year?
I'll have to be careful of what I say, but I gotta say, you gotta pick better, Ray. Come on.
To be fair, we've talked about in the show, goalkeepers are high risk, high reward type picks on this, because if you don't get the clean sheet, you're giving very few points. But when you get that clean sheet and 8 saves in a match, you get a point for every save. You get like 5 points for a clean sheet. You get 3 points for starting. You're racking up the points there. So that's why I'm saying your performance this past weekend basically threw this whole thing all out of whack. But what it did also, it gave a lot of points to people that picked you. And I think if we looked at the last tally, we're over $1,500 in committed donations off of this. So, am I wrong, Dylan?
I think it's just 1,500 points, but we're hoping and suggesting that people donate for the points they get.
Okay, well that's where I'm saying the commit. It's we've asked people to commit to donating whatever their total points are. So based on the points, that's what we are hoping we will get out of that. Go for it, Dylan. I know you have a question.
Yeah, Colin, couple quick questions for you. We got a couple fan questions. This one's from Josh. How much more do you like playing home games versus away games? And the home fans help you more with your mindset and adrenaline?
Ooh, I do love away games. I know it doesn't show it on the broadcast, but going over in that second half with all those fans behind me, they come up with some creative things, probably things that I'm not allowed to say on this podcast, but there are, before the game starts, especially, I'll give them a thumbs up, a smile, a little chuckle, just to show that I'm playing with them. But I love to hear the creative. There's not a lot that I haven't heard yet that'll surprise me, but there will be one here and there that'll get me. But I love playing at home, of course, not traveling and stuff like that. Hearing our home fans, their unique chants that are always awesome to hear after a player does really well in a sequence. No, I don't know how to answer that question, really. I do love away games, but you can't beat home games when the crowd is giving your team the extra boost that we need to get out those 3 points.
No worries. Maybe an easier question for you. Is there a chance of you playing in Europe in the future?
Great question. I don't know. That it's definitely a possibility. I haven't written it off the board. I'll just leave it at that before I dig myself another hole.
Fair enough. Is there a dream club in Europe that you'd like to go to?
Man United, of course.
Okay.
But being realistic, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just saying, if you watch Turkey at the Euros, there might be a backup spot for you, depending on how your season goes. I think maybe our final fan question is, how many more clean sheets can we expect from you for the rest of the season?
How many more games are there? 18?
I think 19. We've played 15. My math might be wrong.
I've 19's right.
Strived. Yeah. Okay, I've strived to have half the games shutouts, and I think I'm one behind at the moment, so I do need to catch up a bit. But I really want to get up to that 13 to 15 mark. So that is the goal.
And finally, I think this is it for all of us. Who in the locker room is not to be trusted with the music?
Oh, with music.
Or at all. I mean, you can throw them under the bus too. That's fine.
I was going to give you a totally different answer.
Here's a shovel, Colin. Please start digging.
With music, we only trust a couple of them. I know some guys say Seth. I do appreciate Seth's variety. I don't know. I'm a very easygoing person with the music. I don't like to be on the aux because I don't want that type of pressure, but I'll say nobody, because I appreciate anybody that's willing to get on the aux that doesn't have that stress on their back.
Okay, now that you've answered this with such a non-committal answer, if you were in a general knowledge trivia game, which of your teammates would you not want to join you?
Oh, in a trivia game.
General knowledge.
Probably Bryce. I'll throw Bryce under the bus.
Great. I can't wait to get you back on and have you guys duke it out.
Yes. I love that. I love watching my my general knowledge question videos and stuff. So
Wonderful. Colin, any final words for Orange County fans?
well, I'm just excited to get back this Saturday back at the Champ. I mean, it's been a long 3 weeks away, so the whole team is ready to be back home and hopefully keep getting 3 points going forward.
Colin,
We're
thank
looking
you
forward
so
to that.
much.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you,
course.
Colin.
All right, listeners, your goalkeeper for your Orange County Soccer Club, Mr. Colin Shutler. Always a blast to have him on the show. He's a great conversation, and he's always willing to answer some of the tough questions that Dylan likes to throw his way. He almost asked the question before you changed it to the Ox. He was ready to give us a name. I'm now curious at what name he was going to give for who do you not trust in the locker room.
Yeah, now I'm starting to think this might be a better question than what's your favorite vegetable.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I know that there are certain people that listen to this podcast that hate that question so much, but I want to continue doing it out of spite.
Just in spite. Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of people that hate me that listen to this podcast, and they still have to listen to my voice anyways.
That's me.
Next up, we didn't do our predictions for the match against Oakland. Our predictions. We heard Peter's prediction, but we got to do ours really quick. I'm going to go to you first, DK. What's your prediction for this match against Oakland?
I'm really conflicted. I expect that we get some injury returns this match. I think we could have had some last match, but heard from a friend of mine, Mr. Elder, that it was smart not to play potentially players coming back from injury on a turf field. So I'm holding on to that hope. However, until I see it, I won't necessarily believe it. So I'm going to actually go a 1-2 Oakland, same as last time. I think we get a goal, but not sure if we can get the 3 points.
What about you, Dylan?
To be honest with you, I'm scared that Colin Shutler's listening because apparently he was listening earlier on. So I'm going to say 1-0 Orange County, and Colin Shutler makes 50 saves. I mean, realistically, I could see him putting the team on his back again for another 45 minutes and just saying, like, all right,
100%.
let's do this. I want to listen to a whole bunch of people scream the SpongeBob SquarePants theme for 45 minutes.
I would love to sing his song for the whole second half.
I just got to confirm, Dylan, you said 5-0 saves, not 1-5 saves, right?
Correct. I did say 5-0, implying that we would concede over one shot per minute for an entire half, and we would not concede.
That would be very interesting. Are you ready for my prediction, Dylan? I know you are. My prediction is going to be 2-0 Orange County. I'm not. Ooh, Dylan thought I was.
That's like a real. That's like a real prediction there, right?
It's a real prediction. I'm going back to real predictions now. That's where I'm at.
Well, is this because of my tingly spidey brain moment with my 3 neurons firing off, where Cameron Dunbar and Ryan Flood run riot down the left flank, or what's going on?
I don't know. It's just
how are we scoring 2?
Feeling. It's just what I'm feeling right now. That's all it is. I have no idea how we're scoring it. That's what I'm feeling. I'll tell you on Saturday at like 9 o'clock who's scoring the 2 goals. 9 p.m.
Ever a comedian. Hey, there was some chaos that happened today. And it wouldn't be the Western Conference, and it maybe wouldn't be Orange County if it was just a calm, peaceful year. Now we've got an injury crisis, and now we have rumors coming from good old Copenhagen. There's going to be we've had enough Danish players on our team that I should probably ask someone how to say things in their language. I think it might be tip split it. Who knows? Anyway, Morten Carlson linked with Lyngby, which is in a suburb of Copenhagen, in case you're, or as I think they say, Copenhagen. So terrifying? No? Yes? DK, where do you stand on this one?
I think it's super bittersweet. I think it's, close to when we found out that Milan was leaving. I think Carlson, although, it's been a rough season, I think he's one of the best managers that we've had. I think we can see that tactically. I think we can see that in a lot of what we saw last season and what he's been able to do with the injury-filled roster that we have this season. But at the same time, the bitter gets overwhelmed by the sweet in the sense of that's what this club is all about. As long as it's not a bad blood situation of Carlson potentially leaving us because he's not happy, if it's more of our club promoting our talent, whether that's players, whether that's coaches to higher divisions, to higher play, then I love it. I want to see us be that development club that we really stand for. And that applies all across the staff, not just players, but to the coaching staff as well. So if it's one of those situations like we seem to kind of feel that it might be, then, potentially Orange County gets a lot of good from this deal, as well as we get to see Morton move on to bigger and better things in Superliga, which would be fantastic in his home country in the first division. And you can't be upset about that. And I'll watch his career because I love what he's done here for us.
Let me just jump in. I just want to clarify on this. This is all just reports out of Denmark. There's no official report from either of the clubs that are mentioned, Orange County or Lyngby Bold Club. It's just a report from the Danish news that Morten and Lyngby Bold Club have been in conversation and have agreed to terms, but there still has to be discussions between the clubs, Orange County and the Danish club. So this is all just that. There's no official statement. There's nothing that's been released that's saying this is happening. This is just the reports going on, the unconfirmed reports going on in Denmark right now. Dylan?
I believe it's pronounced Bold Club.
Okay.
Just for the record. And hey, since you fancy yourself as a head coach of sorts, Ray, where do you rank Morten Carlson, an Orange County head coach hierarchy?
It's a tough one because really, since my fandom started, there's only been 3 coaches to look at, and they've all done really good with Orange County at times, and they've all struggled a little bit at times with Orange County. I think at this point, Morten is even. I think they're all sort of even, all 3 of the coaches. I can't really order them right now. And the 3 coaches I'm talking about, Braden Cloutier, Richard Chaplow, and Morten Carlson, they've all done good. They've all done struggled a little bit from times for me. I think Chaplow gets a little bump just because he was the one that got the championship. But there's reasons you could argue for each of those 3 coaches that they belong at the top of the hierarchy when you're talking between those 3 coaches. So that would be what I have to say on that. Unfortunately, those are the only 3 coaches I've known.
You really didn't miss a lot happening in the Logan Pause era. That was a lot of praying for a penalty so that our left back could score and we could hopefully win 1-0.
There we go. But yeah, so I'm sure there's going to be more information that'll come out over the next, who knows. My guess is if it's being reported, and it's being reported not just on the one site that we were mentioned, but also Bold. Was it Bold? Is also reporting it, and from our research, they're reasonably reliable sources. It's not like the Mirror in England trying to just throw pasta against the wall, hoping it sticks and hoping their story sticks. Right? These are more reliable sources that we're getting the information from. But again, it's just sources saying that Morten Carlson and the club have agreed to terms. I think anyone that follows world soccer knows that these types of things happen a lot of the time before clubs will even negotiate transfers of players and or coaches. They want to know that that person will play or join them for the fee that they want to pay. So who knows what happens in this? This is just being reported that the 2 have agreed to terms. Now it just is up to what happens. And again, once we hear any official statement from either side, we will try and share it and or report on it once we hear anything. But that's, again, right now at this point, it's just that's all that's being reported.
We've gotten so good at CYAing, COAing, since I used to just run my mouth on this show all the time. Good job, Ray. Good job.
There we go. Let's do this before we wrap things up because we're running towards the end of time here. What did we learn in this episode today, folks? I'm going to go to you first, DK. What did you learn in this episode?
Oof. I learned that sometimes on away matches, the players have to get up freaking super early just to get home, which has to suck in regards of recovery, which has to suck in regards of them then getting back on Tuesday or Monday whenever they have to get back to training. Like, that's just a bummer. But hopefully they get some good seats in the plane where they can actually rest. And obviously we learned that there's some funny pictures out in the world that
Dylan really wants to see.
I think we all really want to see. That would be great.
You know what I learned in this show is if I ever board a flight and I see Orange County on the flight, especially if they're returning home from a match, maybe ask for a different flight because there won't be any water available as a passenger. They're going to take all the water on the plane because apparently they come with big old plastic jugs and they ask for it to be refilled and refilled and refilled. So sorry for all the rest of the passengers that are on those flights that are asking for water because you might not get it. Dylan, what did you learn?
I just want to say, if you find yourself on the same flight as Orange County, you better hope that they have won that match, because otherwise it is a very, very awkward flight back when you happen to be sitting in the same row and the head coach has the middle seat next to you. That's not a great time. So I would just say find a different flight in general.
What did you learn though, Dylan, on this episode?
I learned that apparently Colin Shutler, and maybe he's just doing his due diligence and his homework, but that he listens to the show. Terrifying. I do not know if I will be putting on this headset again. That's maybe a deep cut for you there, but yeah, that's mildly horrifying.
They love you, Dylan. Well, that's going to wrap up this show. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think we enjoyed talking for 50 some odd minutes. But I want to thank everyone for participating in the show. For our guest, Peter Bloom from Roots Blog, also Colin Shutler, the goalkeeper for your Orange County Soccer Club, coming off a big shutout victory in Indianapolis against Indy 11. Also want to thank my co-host for this episode, Dylan, DK, and producer Andy, and all of y'all that listened and participated in the chats. We appreciate that for doing so. Hey, this is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and we are out.